When U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke last week at the Munich Security Conference, he delivered a message that most Europeans in the audience neither expected nor welcomed. Vance's address was a wake-up call to Europe, a warning that freedom of expression and free speech are being eroded by forces from within. It was also a call not to forget those shared values that have fortified transatlantic ties for decades. Take a listen.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Now, Vance tried to paint a picture straight out of George Orwell's 1984. He spoke about governments cracking down on free speech, raiding the homes of their citizens over something as insignificant as an online meme. He warned of political leaders using draconian rules to punish people who dare to disagree with them. And in an apparent coincidence, just 2 days later, free speech in Germany was the main topic on the CBS News program 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes aired a report on how German authorities are cracking down on online speech that goes too far. Many viewers were shocked to learn that offending or insulting someone online, protected as free speech in the U.S., can be a crime here in Germany. Here are some excerpts from the show.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you in the internet, if I insult you or a politician,
That sticks around forever.
yeah.
In the United States, a lot of people look at this and say, this is restricting free speech. It's a threat to democracy.
Free speech needs boundaries. And in the case of Germany, these boundaries are part of our constitution. Without boundaries, a very small group of people can rely on endless freedom to say anything that they want, while everyone else is scared and intimidated.
We are here with crimes of talking, posting on internet, and the people are surprised that this is really illegal to post these kind of words.
They don't think it was illegal?
No, they don't think it was illegal. And they say, no, that's my free speech. And we say, no, yeah, free speech as well, but it is also has its limits.
Well, I'm joined now by someone who appeared in that edition of 60 Minutes on CBS. Josephine Ballon is the CEO of HateAID. Now, that's a Berlin-based human rights organization that supports victims of digital violence. Josephine, it's good to have you with us. I'm sure you're well aware of the fallout from this report. 60 Minutes has got people talking about Germany on the other side of the Atlantic. Most people seem to be in disbelief at Germany's stringent free speech or hate speech laws. What is your reaction to these reactions?
It definitely caused a huge debate about freedom of speech in the world, in the US and also in Germany. And many reactions, especially from the US, were quite disapproving the German legal system and even accusing us of dictatorship. And I consider this an absurd and politically motivated exaggeration. And it's also very one-sided. I think we should not forget that it's an essential part of democracy that minorities are protected and not bullied and intimidated. We should really try to remember this.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on that in just a second, but let's stay with the politics for a moment here. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, he has reacted to the 60 Minutes piece on X. He posted this. He said, insulting someone is not a crime, and criminalizing speech is going to put real strain on European-U.S. relationships. This is Orwellian, and everyone in Europe and the U.S. must reject this lunacy. Josephine, what do you say to those Americans who say that this is Orwellian, that this is, almost like 1984?
So there is no doubt that Germany has a slightly different approach to freedom of speech than the US. And our constitution is very clear about the fact that there need to be boundaries that are defined by law to freedom of opinion and freedom of speech. And we need these boundaries to live together peacefully and respectfully. And these boundaries exist for a very good reason, because in Germany, we have a history of oppression, of authoritarianism, and we have witnessed what happens when not all people are treated equally and when minorities are arbitrarily oppressed and prosecuted because of their ethnic or religious background. And our constitution exists to make sure that these minorities are not persecuted again, and that also we can protect them from these attacks. And therefore, calls for violence against refugees, the dissemination of swastikas, the denial of the Holocaust are crimes in Germany, just like baseless insults.
Well, what about insults? I wanted to ask you, does everyone enjoy the same protections here in Germany? I mean, does a private citizen enjoy the same protections as a politician, for example, or are there differences, or should there be differences?
There are slightly different. Okay, the protection is slightly different because as a politician, of course, you have to accept more, for example, criticism than a private citizen has. But on the other hand, when you really attack a politician, they also need to protect it more in some ways because they are public figures and they are also having a very crucial part in our democracies. And if we cannot make sure that politicians feel protected from violations of their rights, then we have to be afraid that they are no longer willing to run for office anymore and keep democracy running.
Well, what right, Josephine, what right, though, is being violated? I mean, we've got, countless examples here in Germany of citizens, commenting on the internet, criticizing politicians. I mean, just voicing their opinions and, ending up being arrested, facing criminal charges. I mean, what rights, though, has been violated?
Politicians have a right to their own personality, to their dignity. That can also be violated, just as normal citizens and other public figures can be violated in these rights. And
is there a difference? Is there a difference, though? Is there a difference if someone says that in person, face to face? Isn't that more impacting than it would be to put something on the internet, or do you see it as the other way around?
It is more impacting when it happens on the internet because it's lasting forever and it has a very huge outreach sometimes that you can also not predict properly beforehand. And when you say that people are only voicing their opinions and are prosecuted, I would say we should really look at it if it was really an opinion or if it was just a baseless insult that is no criticism on a political standpoint or something else, but only meant to intimidate and harass people in the public.
You said in the 60 Minutes piece that people are scared to express their views, fearing, that it could lead, what happens digitally could lead to some type of analog abuse. There are also people, though, here in Germany who are scared to voice their opinions, saying that they're afraid that it will be deemed as hate speech and they're afraid that their houses will be searched. I mean, how do you balance this? And are you convinced that we don't live in a culture now where people are keeping their mouths shut because they're afraid of the consequences of speaking their mind?
You don't have to be afraid of having your house raided if you move within the lines of what's legal in our criminal code, because then there is no reason to raid a house and to do so. And if you really think about people voicing their opinions and being afraid of it, then maybe it was just not an opinion that is worthy to be protected, because freedom of opinion has boundaries. And these boundaries starts where the rights of other people are more worthy to protect. This is made very clear in the Constitution. And therefore, there is a right to these sections in the criminal code that are supposed to protect it.
And Josephine, how would you advise me, for example? I mean, I work in journalism, I'm on television, so my job makes me, in effect, somewhat of a public figure. And we receive countless messages, emails every day from viewers. Many times, those messages are not nice. There are many insults in those. I almost never respond to them. When would you counsel me to respond? What's the threshold? When should I say we should press charges against someone?
It's your personal decision, of course. Many of our clients, for example, say that they are taking action when their family is insulted or threatened even, because it's not only insults, it's also death threats that we are talking about and other violent expressions. So it's really up to you when you think that there is a line crossed. And it's also not your task as a private citizen to decide what is illegal and what not. This is the task of the authorities that need to take a decision of what to do with your criminal complaint.
And if someone on the internet calls me or calls a politician, a knucklehead, a dumbhead, that's not inciting violence. That's just an insult. No. It may not be true. It may be true, but that's their opinion. But is that something that you think would deserve legal action?
I would not say that this deserves legal action because it's.
Because we've seen
if
that.
You want to call it an insult.
We've seen German politicians doing that.
Yes, and politicians are also private people. They can file a criminal complaint if they think that a line might be crossed. And also, if you see what politicians receive all day, hundreds of comments that also include death threats and threats against their family, against their children, then, of course, it can happen that there might be one case that is not as worthy to be prosecuted like the others. But it is not the task of the politicians to decide what is prosecuted because they are not the ones deciding to be prosecuted. We have an independent judiciary, and if they make the decision to investigate the cases, they can do it, and the affected person can tackle this in court if they want to, because this is rule of law, and rule of law is still in place in Germany.
So there's countless examples of people speaking their mind online. How would prosecutors find out about a case, though? Is there surveillance going on, or are the prosecutors, are they reliant on the public to inform them of possible crimes?
They are definitely relying on the public to inform them about crimes. There is no internet surveillance going on. I cannot tell you like every case how the police got notified of a piece of illegal content, but mainly it's citizens notifying them.
Okay. Josephine Ballon with HateAID. Josephine, fascinating discussion, and I'll be interested to hear what our viewers on the other side of the Atlantic have to say. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.